Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, if you didn't think it'd get any worse for Rings of Power, Amazon's new absolute abomination, loosely based on J.R.R. Tolkien's great works, The Lord of the Rings, well, it's gotten so much worse, boys and girls, because we already have some early signs showing off that the viewership is dropping off even faster and even worse than what it was from the first season. It looks like it's going to end up being a disastrous dumpster fire, just like it was on the season one, and there's a whole lot of people already dropping off just between the first, second, and third season. So no matter how much Amazon tried to desperately pad their numbers to try to make this show look like a success by releasing the first 3 episodes in the middle of the week and all at once, it looks like it is not going to do them any good, boys and girls, because based on IMDb ratings alone, there's already a massive drop off in viewership, and that is absolutely hilarious, boys and girls. And also, there's a massive drop off in reviews for season 2 versus season 1 over there on Rotten Tomatoes as well, which probably explains the current Rotten Tomatoes season 2 score. But since it's just now starting to be the weekend at the time we're recording this, I'd imagine that number's only going to get so much worse after a lot of people go out there and watch this over the weekend if they're absolutely insane enough to do. Hi, I'll probably be one of those people. So boys and girls, we're going to get to this article from That Park Place, get into all the juicy details and show you the evidence of how abysmally bad second season is already going for Amazon's Prime. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because boys and girls, we are grinding, we are growing, we are reaching newer heights every single day, and I could not do that without every single one of you. And also, leave us a comment what you think about this down in the links in the comment section down below. Does this surprise you at all? Or are you actually thinking that maybe with some of the promises that they were making that they were going to convince more people to come in, watch, and review this show? Let me know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. From our dear sweet friend over there, That Park Place, John F. Trent. The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2 is seemingly losing viewers already. Oh, yes, boys and girls. The show's only been out, 24 hours right now, and it's already going into the toilet. The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2 already appears to be losing viewers after a single episode, despite releasing the first 3 episodes at the same time. And as a guy who, after last year, they tried dropping the first 2 episodes at once, I literally checked out after the first episode. I don't even think I finished the second episode. It was so abysmally bad. And then, of course, I went through and I didn't bother watching the rest of it either, just like the majority of fans out there. So the number of IMDb reviews for the first episode of season 2 and the third episode decreased by over 50%. Whoo! Sounds almost just like it did with the first season out there, losing half of their viewership right away. There are over 3,800 reviews for the first episode, 11 Kings Under the Sky. The second episode only has over 2,200 reviews, and the third episode has just 1,800 views. Between the first and second episodes, the number of reviews declined by 42%. Between the first and third episode, it's a 52% decline. They have literally lost half their episode of the people that were willing to go to IMDb and review this after watching this show just between the first and the third episode. Boy, it's almost like history doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes, because these are very similar to numbers of what we saw in the first season. You remember when all of those wonderful little influencers out there that they paid to have all of their wonderful trips to fly them over to Europe and stick them out in the castle? Yeah, you mean all of those ones? This is the exact same kind of people, because they're the ones that came out later and admitted they didn't even finish the series out there after getting wined and dined by Amazon Prime over there in Europe. Yes, it still failed miserably. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is hilarious. No matter the billions of dollars that Amazon has spent on this because they decided to hire an absolute activist to be their head of studios, guess what? Just like so many other series that we've seen out there, including Wheel of Time, Rings of Power went woke and went broke. J.R.R. Tolkien is probably smiling to see the scene at this disastrous dumpster fire that they tried to make out of the abomination that is no way in representing of his great work of Lord of the Rings. The second season appears to be following the same trend as the first season. Kim Masters of The Hollywood Reporter shared back in April 23 that 63% of people who watched part of the first season did not finish it. Yes, they lost 63% from their first episode to their last. It was absolutely abysmal. She wrote, while Amazon, like other streamers, only provides limited data and internally held information even more closely than usual on the series, boy, I wonder why, because the numbers on the back end were even worse than what we could see publicly. Sources confirm that The Rings of Power had a 37% domestic completion rate. Customers who watched the entire series. Less than 40% of people that watched this series started at the first episode and finished. Not even half of the audience. They lost over 60% of their audience from the first episode to the last episode. That is abysmally bad. And now we're seeing the same kind of numbers line up with a 50% drop off, over 50% drop off from episode 1 to episode 3. This is going to be another $1 billion disaster for the Amazon company, and I'm here for it. This is what you get for disrespecting the great Professor Roman Catholic J.R.R. Tolkien and his Lord of the Rings. This is also when you happen to disrespect fans and just accuse us of being racist and sexist and phobes and yada 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 because we don't like your garbage writing and trash disrespect to J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh, color us shocked there that the billions of Tolkien fans worldwide have no desire to watch your $1 billion dumpster fire. So for those outside of the United States, the completion rate was higher. Masters shared overseas, it reached 45%. A 50% completion rate would be a solid but not spectacular result, according to the insiders. So even in a world that doesn't concentrate on Western politics, the United States politics, and all of the woke agenda, and the people and all the activists that are constantly getting called out, even the people that don't pay attention, all that kind of stuff, as much as what we do here in the United States, even it was less than a 50% completion rate. That is an abysmally bad thing to hear. While not a one-to-one reflection to Masters numbers, the number of IMDb reviews for the first season declined by nearly 50% from the first 2 episodes to the 8th episode. As of the writing, the first episode has over 5,500 reviews, while the 8th episode has just over 2,800. That's a decline of 48%. So literally almost a mirror of what we're seeing happen now, right now. History is repeating itself, boys and girls. And just for some fun anecdote, Gary Buechler of Nerdrotic out there wrote on X, says there are about 32 people at our free fully booked 2-episode screening for The Rings of Power, and a dozen left after the first episode. Almost half once again. Boy, it's almost like everything we've been hollering about there on the internet, that all of us calling things out like this, that mainstream audiences also think the same thing. Whether or not they agree with the agenda, whether or not they have a problem with the agenda-driven nonsense of race-swapping elves and not giving dwarves the proper beards that they deserve, because even female dwarves have beards. Hashtag real dwarves have beards. Hashtag respect for Tolkien out there. Literally, even they know, they can tell whether or not it's good storytelling or not. They walked out after just the first episode at something that they did not even pay for. Now, more than likely, if they paid for it, they might have actually stuck around the entire time just to get their own money's worth and to be even more mad and even more upset about it, which honestly probably would have been my preferred method. But even at a free screening, you could not keep people past the first episode, which essentially, for the majority of America out there, Amazon Prime, they have Amazon Prime not because of the wonderful offerings like Rings of Power that are out there, but because of the free shipping. So essentially, the majority of the United States can watch this show for free as well. And even they are not showing up to watch this, because I guarantee you there is literally less than a handful of souls on the planet who went out of their way to pay $130 a year for an Amazon Prime membership to watch Rings of Power. Boys and girls, it did not happen. And of course, the real test for the show will be whether or not it can best its first season numbers, or even best Reacher season 2, which saw its viewership numbers skyrocket and easily surpass The Rings of Power. Yes, an action hero from a book that a lot of people haven't actually read or have any interest in outdid a show based on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, one of the #1 selling books in history that has billions of fans generationally worldwide. Yes, Reacher did better than it, boys and girls. And obviously we've been over the numbers ad nauseum, over and over how abysmally bad. So this is the other fun little trick that they're playing as well to make it even more obvious that these numbers are padded, right? However, it won't be a one-to-one comparison, as Prime Video released 3 episodes for the show's first week instead of 2. In theory, this should see their minutes watched increased, but it's very possible that that number could decline given the fact that seemingly so many people tuned out of the show in the first season and do not appear to have returned to the show for the second season. Yes, as we've all predicted, as we've all talked about, the numbers are going to be even worse for season 2 than season 1. How can you lose over 60% of your audience from episode 1 to the last episode and expect your numbers to be any better in the season 2? None of the lies that you pushed in the marketing, talking about how, well, we're going to stick closer to the source material in season 2. It's going to be a better representation of the Tolkien. The characters are going to feel more like what they should in the books. Nobody believed your lies. Why? Because if that was the case, you would have done that from the first season. But that's never what this was about. It was never about making a good Lord of the Rings show that would have appealed to actual Tolkien fans out there. No. You saw a super popular franchise that was worth billions of dollars, that had billions of fans worldwide out there, and you saw it as a vehicle for your message. You saw it as a vehicle for your agenda, to own the chuds out there on the internet who call you out for race swapping, gender swapping, and ignoring and disrespecting the lore. Why? Because we know why. We know this always ends up in the same thing. It's not just that you're disrespecting Tolkien's lore. It's not just that you're race swapping and gender swapping characters over and over again. No, it's that we know that you concentrate so much on that stuff that your storytelling falls lackluster because none of you are creative. You are all creative bankrupt. You are all just political activists that have wormed your ways into positions of power inside the entertainment industry, and you saw Tolkien, according to the marketing out there, that it was a very popular franchise and had so much goodwill with the fans, and you decided to try to use that as a message, a vehicle for your message, because you thought Tolkien fans were stupid. You've always thought nerds and geeks were stupid. And now you're finding out that, guess what? We're not your sycophants out there on the internet who just clap like stupid seals every time you race swap or gender swap. No, we're smarter than you, and we always have been. We're the ones that read the Tolkien books. And anybody that's ever read those knows that's not for a moron. Those books are hard slogs to get through in some areas, okay? Tolkien is incredible at his world building, almost to a fault. But that's the thing. You never understood us, and you never did. You were never one of us. You were never a fan of Tolkien. You never respected the great Roman Catholic's work. You sure as hell never respected Lord of the Rings. And as usual, you fucked off and found out. Because it turns out, yes, boys and girls, we are smarter than all of the Hollywood quote-unquote elites. We're not just a bunch of dumb serfs that they can push around and get us to show up to the trough and lop up whatever kind of slop they put out there. As usual, you've underestimated the fans, you've underestimated the nerds and the geeks, and most of all, you underestimated Tolkien! And now you're getting the consequences of your action. Enjoy watching over $1 billion go up in flames, Jeff Bezos, because you're the one that did the hiring. You're the one that decided to allow people to disrespect Tolkien. And guess what? Now you're getting exactly what you deserve. I cannot wait to report on the actual numbers for this show, because it is going to be a disastrous dumpster fire like we have never seen before. And ladies and gentlemen, they did it to themselves. After all, disrespect the fans. We'll sit back, laugh at you, and watch you burn down to the ground. And that's exactly what Rings of Power Season 2 is going to do and is already doing. Enjoy it, Bezos.